Hello, I'm Holly, and today I'm going to share the painful truth about my daughter, Mia. For years, I ignored the rumors until the day I decided to watch her closely. I couldn't believe my eyes. She sold everything we had. My trust, my love, gone. But that's not even the worst part. Mia's betrayal is deeper than I ever imagined. I'm left asking myself, was this all part of a bigger plan? Hook 2. They made me believe everything was fine until the shocking truth came to light. My own daughter, Mia, took everything from me, my house, my money, even my peace of mind. But what hurt the most? The lies that led me here. How far will I go to take back what's mine? And why did Mia do it? The answers will haunt me forever. Combined hook. Hello, I'm Holly. For years, I trusted my daughter, Mia. But when I started paying attention, I saw the shocking truth. She sold everything we had, my inheritance, my house. But worse, she sold my trust. Now I'm left questioning everything. How could my own daughter betray me like this? And why is it so much worse than I thought? You won't believe the depths of Mia's deception. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon in the small suburban neighborhood of California, where the scent of fresh flowers filled the air. The world felt peaceful, almost too peaceful for what was about to unfold. My name is Holly Graves, and I've spent most of my life holding everything together. My husband, Tom, and I live in a modest home with our daughter, Mia, a quiet teenager who never gave me trouble. At least, that's what I thought. I'm in my early 40s now, and life has been a series of compromises. I've always been the strong one, the one who sacrifices, the one who holds everything together when it all starts to fall apart. I've dedicated myself to my family, to keeping the peace, to being the rock they can always rely on. But recently, something has been nagging at me, something I can't quite put my finger on. I feel unseen, unappreciated. I had been invited to a small family gathering that day, nothing extraordinary, just a few friends and relatives chatting over drinks. But it wasn't the gathering that caught my attention. It was something someone said, something offhand, something that should have meant nothing. I had just finished chatting with a couple of old friends when Aunt Clara, someone I barely recognized, leaned in close and whispered something that made my stomach turn. "You know, Holly," she began, her voice low, "I've seen Mia acting strangely lately, hiding something, maybe. Be careful." I chuckled, dismissing it as idle gossip. Aunt Clara had always been a bit eccentric, and I assumed she was just speaking out of her own imagination. But when I looked into her eyes, something felt off. There was an intensity in her gaze that I couldn't ignore. I brushed it off, but the seed of doubt was planted. I didn't confront Mia that day. What could I possibly say? "Are you hiding something from me?" No, that would be absurd. I was her mother after all. I trusted her. I wanted to trust her. But the more I thought about Aunt Clara's words, the more unsettled I became. The nagging feeling inside me grew, and I found myself watching Mia a little more closely, looking for anything out of the ordinary. It wasn't just the words, it was the way Aunt Clara had looked at me when she spoke. The way she seemed to know something I didn't. It was as if she could see right through me, and it unsettled me more than I cared to admit. For the next few days, I found myself distracted. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I had always been the type to ignore my instincts, to trust others, to keep the peace. But now, something deep inside me told me to pay attention, to trust my gut. Mia had always been a good girl. But what if Aunt Clara was right? What if Mia was hiding something from me? The internal conflict gnawed at me. I had never intruded on Mia's life. I believed in respecting her privacy. But as a mother, I had a responsibility to protect her, even from herself. I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. That night, after a long and restless evening, I made a decision. I couldn't ignore the whispers of doubt anymore. I was going to find out what was going on, even if it meant crossing a line I'd never crossed before. I didn't tell Tom. I didn't want to worry him. I decided to follow Mia the next morning. She was heading out to run an errand. Just a trip to the supermarket, or so I thought. I followed her at a distance, my heart racing. What was I expecting to find? I didn't know, but something inside me told me this was the right thing to do. When we got to the parking lot, I saw her walking toward the supermarket. But instead of going inside, she veered off, heading toward a small pawn shop on the corner of the street. My heart skipped a beat. What was Mia doing in a pawn shop? Was she selling something? I hesitated, standing across the street, watching her through the window. She glanced around before stepping inside. My pulse quickened as a sense of dread settled over me. What was she doing there? I tried to tell myself it was nothing, just a misunderstanding. Maybe she was buying something. Maybe she was just curious. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I waited, watching for what felt like an eternity, my stomach in knots. Eventually, Mia emerged from the pawn shop, holding a small bag. I couldn't see what was inside, but the look on her face was one I couldn't ignore. She looked nervous. Was it guilt? Or was it something else? A wave of shock and betrayal washed over me. My mind raced with questions. Why hadn't she told me? Was she hiding something from me? Why didn't she come to me if she needed help? I felt a lump form in my throat as I fought to hold back tears. How could she do this to me? I had always been there for her, always put her first. And now I felt completely in the dark, like I had missed something so important. As Mia walked down the street, heading back toward the house, I felt the weight of the situation settle on my shoulders. I didn't know what to do next. Should I confront her? Should I let it go and give her space? My mind was a whirlwind of confusion, hurt, and anger. But the one thing I did know for sure was that I couldn't just walk away. I followed her home, each step feeling heavier than the last. I had to know the truth. I had to know what she was hiding. But part of me wondered, what if the truth was something I wasn't ready to face? The day after I followed Mia to the pawn shop, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It's a feeling that clings to you like an old, worn-out coat, heavy, persistent, and impossible to ignore. It was late afternoon, and I sat at the kitchen table, staring out the window at the sun slowly sinking beneath the horizon. The light was soft, casting a warm glow across our quiet suburban neighborhood, but inside, I felt cold. A storm was brewing, and I could sense it coming. I spent the entire day observing Mia from a distance. She didn't know, of course. I couldn't bring myself to confront her yet. The seed of doubt had been planted, and now I was watching her every move, analyzing her actions, looking for signs that might explain the mystery she'd wrapped herself in. I kept asking myself, where did I go wrong? Was I such a terrible mother that Mia felt she couldn't come to me with her problems? Or was this just something she had been hiding all along, too deep for me to see? I couldn't help but feel like I was failing her, that I had missed the warning signs somewhere along the way. The weight of it all pressed on me. I couldn't sit idle any longer. I needed answers. I decided, then and there, that I would confront Mia. Not with anger, not with accusations, but with calm, controlled concern. I had to know the truth. I couldn't let this go on any longer. The opportunity came that evening. Tom and I were sitting down for a quiet dinner, just the three of us. The mood was ordinary. Too ordinary, in fact. The kind of normalcy that made the growing tension between Mia and me seem even more unbearable. My hands trembled slightly as I set my fork down. It was time. "Mia," I said, keeping my voice even, "I need to talk to you." She looked up from her plate, her face betraying no emotion. For a moment, I wasn't sure if she'd heard me. "What about?" she asked, her voice soft but guarded. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. "I saw something today. I know what you did at the pawn shop." Her eyes flickered with something, guilt, maybe, or just surprise. She looked away quickly, and for a moment I thought I might have imagined it. But when she looked back at me, her expression had hardened. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied, the words coming out too quickly. "I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was just some stuff I borrowed for a friend. You know, nothing to worry about." Her voice was defensive, her words carefully constructed, as if she was trying to convince herself as much as me. I wasn't buying it. "I'm not mad, Mia," I said, my voice softer now, trying to hold back the frustration building inside me. "I just need to understand why you're hiding things from me." She shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes darting around the room as if she could find an escape route. I'm not hiding anything, Mom. You're overreacting. But I knew. The more she denied it, the more certain I became. There was something she wasn't telling me, something she was trying to cover up. And I wasn't going to let it slide. Not again. I pressed her, my voice rising just a fraction. I'm not stupid, Mia. I saw you in that pawn shop. Don't lie to me. Her face paled slightly, and she opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. She just sat there, her eyes filling with something I couldn't place, fear, maybe, or shame. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours, neither of us knowing what to say next. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. Finally, Mia broke the silence. It's not what you think, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I needed the money. It's for something important. Something inside me snapped. What could be so important that you'd go behind my back? What's going on, Mia? You're not a child anymore. You can't just keep secrets from me like this. She bit her lip, her gaze dropping to her lap. I could see the conflict in her eyes, but it didn't change the fact that she was lying to me. I didn't mean for things to get out of hand, she muttered, her voice shaky. I just didn't know how to tell you. I stared at her, my mind racing. I had expected a lot of things, but not this. The girl I had raised, the one who had always been so open and honest with me, was now hiding something so deep and dangerous that she couldn't even tell me about it. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, a sickening feeling that I couldn't shake. My own daughter, what was she mixed up in? I tried to stay calm, but inside I was screaming. You need to tell me the truth, Mia. What's really going on? This isn't like you. Mia stood up suddenly, knocking her chair back with a loud crash. I can't do this right now, she snapped, her voice cracking with emotion. Just drop it, Mom. I'm fine. I'm handling it. But I knew she wasn't fine, and I knew it was time to dig deeper. I couldn't let this go. Not until I knew what was really happening, not until I had the whole picture. After dinner, I went through Mia's room while she was in the bathroom. I opened her drawers, searched through her things, and then I found it, hidden deep inside her jewelry box. A stack of money, thick and rolled up in a rubber band. My heart pounded as I stared at it. It didn't make sense. Why would she have so much money? And why would she hide it from me? I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I had to know more. So I kept digging, searching through her private things. That's when I found the account, an online bank account with a large sum of money linked to her actions. My stomach twisted as I pieced it together. Mia wasn't just hiding things from me. She was involved in something far more dangerous than I could have imagined. This wasn't just a phase, this was serious. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My daughter, my baby girl, was tangled up in something so dark and dangerous. My heart sank as I realized the truth. I could feel the weight of everything crashing down on me. Was this my fault? Had I failed her? Had I missed the signs? I couldn't stop the flood of guilt that swept over me, but there was no time for that. I needed to act fast. The next day, at dinner, I told Tom everything I had uncovered. I expected support, understanding. But instead, he stared at me in disbelief, his face a mix of shock and confusion. This is insane, Holly, he said, shaking his head. Mia would never get involved in something like this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. His denial only made the situation worse. Tom, I'm telling you, she's in trouble. This is real. But he wouldn't listen. He kept defending her, even when the evidence was staring him in the face. I could feel the frustration building up inside me, my hands trembling as I tried to keep it together. I didn't know who I was fighting more, the people around me or the feeling that my daughter, the one I thought I knew, had become someone I didn't recognize. As I left the table, I took a deep breath. I needed to do something. I had to protect her, even if it meant exposing the truth, and risk losing her forever. Later that night, I went digging again. I found something, a connection, a shady business Mia had been involved with. It was bigger than I thought, and it wasn't just about the money, it was the people she was surrounding herself with. The truth was uglier than I could have ever imagined. And then my phone buzzed. An anonymous text, "You're getting too close. Back off, or Mia will pay the price." I froze, the weight of the message crashing down on me. This wasn't just about money. This was about something far more dangerous. I had to decide, do I protect Mia or do I expose everything and risk everything? The morning air felt different. The weight of the night's events hung over me like a cloud I couldn't shake. I stood in the kitchen, staring out at the soft California sunshine, but it couldn't warm the chill that had settled in my chest. My mind was racing, replaying every word, every moment from last night, and it only led me to one conclusion. There was something deeply wrong with Mia. I couldn't keep ignoring it. I couldn't pretend that everything was fine anymore. After a restless night spent tossing and turning, I knew what I had to do. The time for waiting was over. I needed to dig deeper. I had been watching Mia, yes, but now I needed answers. I wasn't going to let this spiral out of control. Whatever Mia was hiding, I was going to uncover it. I started with her room. Going through her things felt like a violation, but what choice did I have? Every drawer I opened felt like a betrayal, but I was desperate. I needed something concrete. I needed a clue, a shred of evidence that could explain everything that had been happening. Her phone was the first place I went. I tried to convince myself that I was only looking for signs of trouble. I wasn't prying. I was a mother trying to protect her daughter. That's what I told myself as I unlocked her phone and started scrolling through her messages. Most of it was mundane, texts from friends, school updates. But then I found it. A series of strange messages, mostly short, cryptic exchanges, with someone named R and another contact listed as M. They were discussing plans, exchanges of money, and trips that Mia had never mentioned to me. My heart sank. As I dug deeper, I found bank statements on her computer. The large, unexplained transfers to an account I didn't recognize were impossible to ignore. I felt sick to my stomach as I realized what I was looking at. Money being moved in and out of accounts, with no explanation. Mia had been hiding something far darker than I could have imagined. I didn't know what to do with this information, but one thing was clear. Mia wasn't just hiding a little secret. This was bigger, much bigger. I couldn't sit on this any longer. I needed to talk to Tom. I needed him to see what I was seeing. But as I prepared to confront him, doubt crept in. What if he didn't believe me? What if he thought I was overreacting, just like he always did? That night, after we finished dinner, I took a deep breath. The time had come. "Tom, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked at me, his face still tired from a long day at work. "What is it, Holly? You look upset." I swallowed hard, trying to hold back the panic rising in my chest. "It's Mia," I started. "I found something today. Something that, I don't know how to say this, but I think she's involved in something dangerous." Tom raised an eyebrow, his fork halfway to his mouth. "What are you talking about?" "I found bank statements," I said, my voice cracking. "I found money transfers. Mia's involved in some kind of illegal activity. Something to do with money laundering. She's hiding things from us, Tom." His expression changed in an instant, but not in the way I had hoped. He set his fork down slowly, his gaze flickering to the table. "Money laundering? Holly, that doesn't make any sense. Mia's not like that. She's our daughter. She's not involved in anything shady." I could feel my frustration rising. "I'm telling you, I found the proof. I'm not making this up. There's more, Tom. There's more I haven't even shown you yet." He shook his head, his face hardening. "You're overreacting. I don't know what's going on with you, but I don't believe this. Mia wouldn't do something like that." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "How can you not see it? She's been lying to us, Tom. How can you defend her?" "You need to wake up." The argument escalated quickly. Tom's refusal to believe what I had found felt like a slap in the face. How could he just brush this off as nothing? How could he not see the danger that Mia was in? I stood up, my hands shaking. "I can't keep doing this alone, Tom. I need you to see the truth." But instead of offering support, he retreated into his own world, leaving me feeling more alone than ever. The tension between us was palpable, and I realized, as I stood there trying to hold back tears, that I was fighting this battle by myself. Not just with Mia, but with Tom, too. Our marriage was cracking under the weight of this secret. Later that night, unable to sleep, I grabbed my phone and made a call. I couldn't rely on Tom anymore. If I was going to get answers, I needed outside help. I hired a private investigator, a man named Jack, who came highly recommended. His reputation for handling sensitive cases was exactly what I needed. The next morning, I met with Jack at a small local coffee shop. The place was quiet, with the hum of conversation filling the air. I sat across from him, my fingers drumming nervously on the table. "Tell me everything you know about Mia," Jack said, pulling out a notebook and pen. "We need to get to the bottom of this." I hesitated, my mind spinning. "I don't know where to start," I said, the weight of the situation sinking in. "She's been acting strange for months, but I didn't think it was anything serious. Then I found the money. And those contacts, people she's been talking to about things I don't understand." Jack scribbled something down in his notebook, his expression serious. "I'm going to look into it. But I'm afraid this is just the tip of the iceberg. What you've described to me, it sounds like your daughter's in over her head." I nodded, trying to hold back the tears. I didn't want to think about how much worse this could get. But I knew deep down that Jack was right. Mia wasn't just involved in something small. This was big. And it wasn't just about money. It was the people she was getting involved with. That evening, as I sat at home, waiting for updates from Jack, I felt a cold chill run down my spine. My phone rang, interrupting the silence. It was Jack. "They've got their hands in a lot of dirty business," he said, his voice low. "Money laundering, yes. But there's more. This is tied to a criminal network that's much bigger than anything we initially thought, and they're using your daughter." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. "What do you mean they're using her?" Jack sighed. "They're pulling the strings, Holly. They've got her in their grasp. And I'm afraid they'll do anything to keep her under their control." A chill spread through me as I processed his words. My daughter, my sweet, innocent Mia, was tangled up in something I couldn't even begin to understand. And worse, there were dangerous people involved. Just as I was about to respond, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Jack. It was a text message. "Stop looking, or your daughter will be the next one to disappear." I stared at the message in horror, my hands shaking. I knew then that everything had changed. This wasn't just about Mia's secrets anymore. It was about protecting her and making sure she didn't become another victim. The morning sun peeked through the blinds, casting long shadows across the kitchen counter. The world outside was quiet, as it always was in this suburban neighborhood, but inside, my heart was anything but. The call last night still echoed in my ears. I couldn't shake the feeling that Mia was in deep, and this wasn't something I could ignore anymore. A few days had passed since the anonymous phone call, but the anxiety was still fresh. Every time I thought about it, my stomach would turn. I knew I was getting closer to the truth, but with each discovery, the fear only grew. Mia was tangled in something bigger than I could have imagined. I had to find out everything, and fast. That morning, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I couldn't wait for Tom to come around. I couldn't count on him to see the gravity of what Mia was involved in. I couldn't even rely on him for support anymore. The weight of the secret I was carrying was too much. I needed evidence. Hard evidence that I could hold up in front of Tom that would make him see the situation for what it truly was. I walked through the front door of the pawn shop, the bell above it jingling softly. It was the same one I'd seen Mia enter the other day. It smelled like old wood and dust, with items piled high all around. The old shopkeeper barely looked up from the counter as I approached, but I could see the look in his eyes. He knew exactly why I was there. "I'm looking for something," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My daughter, she came in here recently. I need to know what she sold." The man hesitated for a moment, his eyes narrowing. "I can't give out that information, lady." I didn't back down. "I'm her mother. I have a right to know." He looked me over again, as if deciding whether to help or turn me away. Finally, with a sigh, he motioned for me to follow him. He led me to the back, where the shelves were lined with electronics, watches, and a few pieces of jewelry that looked like they had been worn down by years of use. And there it was, a box full of high-end electronics, laptops, phones, and tablets, none of which Mia had ever mentioned. On a nearby shelf, a collection of expensive jewelry glittered under the dim light. The shock hit me like a punch to the gut, but it wasn't just the items that disturbed me. It was the papers, documents, contracts, and even bank statements stuffed haphazardly into the box, none of them in Mia's name, but clearly connected to her somehow. I could feel my pulse quicken. This was it. This was the proof I had been searching for. It wasn't just a few things here and there. Mia had been involved in something serious. She was trading in stolen goods. She was helping to launder money. I looked at the shopkeeper. "What else do you have?" He glanced around nervously. "I don't know what you're talking about." I didn't buy it. "I know what I'm looking at," I said, my voice growing more urgent. "I want everything." He hesitated, then pulled out a small, crumpled bag from underneath the counter. Inside were more documents, more evidence that Mia had been involved in criminal activity. This wasn't just a phase. It was something much bigger. I left the shop, my hands shaking as I gripped the bag. My heart pounded in my chest. This was real. Mia was caught up in something dark, but the hardest part was yet to come. That afternoon, I found Mia at home, sitting in the living room, her eyes glued to her phone. She didn't even look up when I entered the room. "Mia, we need to talk," I said, my voice tight with emotion. She didn't respond right away. For a moment, the silence between us felt suffocating. I walked over and sat down across from her. "Mia," I said again, softer this time, "I found something today." "I found proof of what you've been doing." Her face went pale. She dropped her phone onto the couch, her eyes darting nervously toward the door, as if looking for an escape. "What are you talking about?" she asked, trying to play it off like it was nothing. I held up the bag I'd taken from the pawn shop, the documents spilling out. "This, Mia, all of this. What is this about? Why are you selling things like this? Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes filled with panic. "Mom, please." "Mia, look at me," I said, my voice breaking. "This isn't just some mistake. This is serious. You're in danger." She stood up quickly, shaking her head. "I didn't want you to find out. I didn't want you to worry, but you don't understand. I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm being forced into it." I froze, the weight of her words hitting me like a slap to the face. "What do you mean, forced?" She lowered her head, her voice trembling. "There are people, Mom. Dangerous people. They've threatened me. If I don't do what they say, they'll hurt me. They said they'd hurt you, too." The pieces started to fall into place. I wasn't just angry anymore. I wasn't just disappointed. My daughter was being manipulated, trapped by people far more dangerous than I had ever realized. "Mia," I said, my voice softer now, "why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't want you to be involved," she whispered, her shoulders slumped. "I didn't want you to be hurt. I never wanted this." I reached out to touch her arm, but the distance between us felt vast, like an ocean that I couldn't cross. "What can we do?" I asked, feeling a surge of helplessness. "How do we get you out of this?" "I don't know, Mom," she said, her voice breaking. "I wish I did. I don't know." The door slammed open, and Tom walked in, his face tight with frustration. "What's going on here?" he demanded, looking between the two of us. I turned to him, my heart racing. "I told you, Tom." "Mia's in serious trouble." His face twisted with disbelief. "This again? You're jumping to conclusions. This is just a phase, Holly. Mia's fine. She's always been fine." "No, Tom," I said, my voice steady despite the flood of emotions. "This isn't a phase. This is real. Mia is involved in something dangerous, and we have to face it." Tom shook his head, his frustration boiling over. "I can't believe this. You're blaming her again, aren't you?" "I'm not blaming her," I snapped. "I'm trying to save her." But he wasn't listening. The divide between us felt wider now than ever before. I turned away from him, feeling the sting of his indifference. This wasn't just about Mia anymore. This was about our family, about everything we had built together. And I was beginning to wonder if it was all falling apart. As if the situation wasn't already bad enough, my phone buzzed, a new message flashing on the screen. The blood drained from my face when I read it. Stop looking, or Mia will be the next one to disappear. The terror hit me all at once. I had no choice. I had to act. But in doing so, I was risking everything: Mia's safety, my own, and even the fragile ties holding this family together. The sun had barely risen, and already the weight of everything was pressing down on me. The house was still and quiet, almost too quiet, as though it too was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable to come. The decision had been made, but the dread of what was to come clung to me like a heavy cloak. A week had passed since that ominous phone call, the one that threatened Mia's life. Every day had been a struggle between hope and fear, with each hour dragging on as I waited for the right moment to act. But now, the time had come. I stood by the window in the living room, looking out at the peaceful neighborhood. How was it that everything could seem so normal while my world was falling apart? I wasn't sure how long I stood there, but finally, I turned away and walked into the kitchen where I had placed the phone call to my contact last night. The man who might be able to help me save Mia. The phone buzzed in my pocket, and my heart skipped a beat. I took it out slowly, already knowing who it was. Mia. My fingers trembled as I read the text. "They're watching us. They know you're going to do something." My stomach sank. She was right. She was fully entrenched in this world now, and it wasn't just dangerous for her, it was dangerous for me, too. But there was no turning back. I couldn't stop now. I couldn't lose her, not after everything I had already sacrificed. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what came next. There was no more time for hesitation. I had to go see my contact. I had to make the deal, no matter how ugly it got. I drove through town, the familiar streets feeling unfamiliar now, as if everything around me was shifting beneath my feet. The air felt thick, heavy with the tension that had been building for weeks. When I reached the outskirts of town, I parked my car in front of an old warehouse, its windows boarded up, its walls weathered and cracked. I had never been here before, but the place felt right. It felt like the kind of place where desperate people went for desperate solutions. The man I was meeting had been someone I hadn't spoken to in years, someone I once trusted when things had gone wrong in my own life. Back then, he had been my only choice, and I had hoped never to rely on him again. But now, with Mia's life at stake, there was no one else to turn to. I got out of the car, my heart pounding in my chest, and walked toward the building. The door creaked open as I approached. Inside, it was dark, save for a few dim lights overhead. I spotted him right away. Jason. He looked the same as I remembered, older, but still the same man who had been a lifeline when I needed it most. "You came," he said, his voice low. He didn't smile. He didn't even look surprised. Just a matter of time, I guess. "I need help," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Mia's in trouble." "Bad trouble." He motioned for me to follow him deeper into the warehouse. "I know," he said. "I've been hearing things. You're not the only one looking to pull her out. The question is, how much are you willing to pay?" I froze. This was the moment. "I don't have much," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But I'll do anything, anything to get her out of this mess." Jason turned to face me, his eyes narrowing. "The price for getting her out isn't just money, Holly. You know that. You're going to need something bigger, something more personal." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What do you mean?" "You'll need to give up something important, something that'll make this worth my while. I don't just do favors for nothing." I felt a wave of betrayal flood over me. This wasn't the man I used to know, the man who had helped me when I had nothing. This man was a stranger now, one whose price for help was far too high. "I can't," I said, shaking my head. "I don't have anything left." He stepped closer, his voice turning cold. "Then I guess Mia's fate is sealed, isn't it?" I felt the tears sting my eyes, but I fought them back. This wasn't the time to break down. This was the time to fight. "No," I said, my voice trembling but resolute. "I'll do whatever it takes. Tell me what you need." Jason gave a half smile, a grin that was more like a sneer. "Good. That's what I wanted to hear. You've got spirit, Holly. Let's see if it's enough." I left the warehouse with more questions than answers, but one thing was clear. I had just crossed a line. The price for Mia's freedom wasn't just money, it was something far darker, something I wasn't sure I could live with. As I drove home, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions, but nothing could prepare me for the confrontation that awaited me when I got there. Tom was already sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in, his eyes searching mine for answers. But he didn't know what I knew. And he didn't know the extent of what was happening. "I need to talk to you," I said, my voice tight with frustration. "Mia is in danger. I've learned everything, Tom. She's involved in things that could get her killed." He looked at me with disbelief. "What are you talking about? This is insane, Holly. You're making this up." "No," I said, my voice firm. "I'm not. This isn't a phase, Tom. Mia is mixed up in something dangerous, and I have to save her." Tom stood up, his face reddening with anger. "You've gone too far. You're blowing this out of proportion. You always do this. You're making everything worse." His words hit me like a slap. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own husband, my partner, was dismissing everything I had learned, dismissing my fears, dismissing Mia's life. "This is bigger than us, Tom," I said, my voice breaking. "This is about saving our daughter." But he didn't understand. He couldn't see it. He refused to see it. I stood there for a moment, staring at him, and then I turned away. I didn't need his approval anymore. I didn't need his support. I had already made my decision. Just as I was about to leave the room, my phone buzzed. I picked it up without thinking. The message sent a chill through my body. "Stop looking, or Mia will be the next one to disappear." I felt the blood drain from my face. The threat was real. Mia was in deeper than I had realized. And now I had to make my move, no matter the cost. The cold morning light filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows across the living room. It felt like a dream, a nightmare that wouldn't end. Mia's life, our lives, hung in the balance. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs as I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. It had buzzed again, the screen lighting up with another message. This time, it was a call. I picked up the phone with shaking hands, my stomach twisting. The voice on the other end was gruff, cold. "You've been warned," the voice said, low and menacing. "Stop interfering, or your daughter will be gone." The words sent a jolt of fear through me. Caleb, the mastermind behind it all. The man who held Mia's life in his hands. He knew I was getting close to the truth, and now he was threatening to make good on his promises. But what choice did I have? I couldn't stop now. I couldn't let Mia fall any further into this abyss. I dropped my head into my hands, breathing deeply to steady myself. It felt like the walls were closing in, but this wasn't the time to break down. Not anymore. If anything, the threat only made me more determined. I had already lost so much, but I would not lose her, not without a fight. I rose to my feet and paced the room, my mind racing. Caleb's words echoed in my mind, his warning a dark cloud that hovered over every decision I made. But I wasn't going to back down, not when Mia needed me more than ever, not when I had already come this far. I wasn't going to let him win. I needed to act. I needed to do whatever it took to get Mia out of this mess. The clock was ticking, and every moment was one step closer to disaster. The last few days had been nothing but a blur of planning, of making calls, trying to find a way to save her. But now, the time for waiting was over. I reached for my phone again, dialing the number of an old contact, someone I'd helped years ago, someone who owed me a favor. He was my last hope. If anyone could help, it was him. The phone rang. My fingers were trembling as I waited for the line to pick up. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the voice on the other end answered. "Holly?" "Please," I said, my voice tight with desperation. "I need your help. Mia's in danger. I need to get her out. Can you do it?" There was a long pause, and then he spoke, his voice low and reluctant. "I don't know what you've gotten yourself into, but you've got it bad, don't you?" "I do. Please, I'm begging you," I said, my voice cracking. "You owe me. This is your chance to make it right." He sighed heavily. "I'll help you. But you know the price, right? It's not going to be cheap." "I don't care about the price," I said. "Just get her out, whatever it takes." He agreed, and I ended the call with a mix of relief and dread. I had made my choice. I had to follow through now, no matter what. There was no turning back. A few hours later, I found myself at the warehouse, just like before. The shadows seemed darker this time, the place more oppressive. As I stepped inside, the musty smell of old wood and dust filled my lungs, and I almost gagged, but I pushed it aside. This was for Mia. I didn't have time to waste. My contact was already there, waiting. He didn't look any different from last time, gruff, hardened, just as I remembered him. "You're in deeper than you think," he said, his eyes scanning me with a knowing look. "I don't know if I can help you out of this one." "Just tell me what to do," I said, fighting the urge to collapse under the weight of it all. He led me to a corner of the warehouse, where a few men stood by, their faces obscured in the dim light. They looked like they had no business being here. They looked like they belonged in a different world. But I had no choice. "We're not just getting Mia out of this mess," my contact said, his voice dropping lower. "There are bigger forces at play, forces you don't even understand." "I don't care about the details," I snapped, my anger flaring. "I need her safe, now." He met my gaze, and for a moment I saw the hint of doubt in his eyes. But then he nodded. "All right, we'll do it your way. But this isn't going to be easy. Caleb's people aren't just criminals, they're well-connected. The police are involved. This goes deeper than you think." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "What do you mean, the police?" His expression darkened. "Caleb has connections everywhere. Don't trust anyone. Not even the people you think you can trust." I felt the floor tilt beneath me, as though the ground had been pulled out from under me. Caleb was working with the police. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Mia's nightmare was far worse than I had imagined. The system was rigged against her. I needed to act fast. My contact gave me the plan, a dangerous one, a plan that involved going after Caleb directly, exposing him for what he really was. But it came with a price. "Here's the deal," my contact said, his voice steady but grim. "We set up a trap. You'll have to get Caleb to trust you. Once he does, we'll move in and take him down. But it'll cost you. It'll cost you everything, including your relationship with Tom." I hesitated, the weight of the decision crushing me. But I didn't have a choice. This was the only way to save Mia. I would do whatever it took, even if it meant losing everything in the process. I took a deep breath. "I'll do it. Let's set the trap." The next few hours were a blur of planning, scheming, and trying to stay one step ahead of Caleb. I knew it was risky, but I was willing to take the chance. Just as I was about to finalize everything, my phone rang. It was Tom. My heart skipped a beat. I answered it, my hand shaking. "Holly," Tom's voice was urgent. "I've been talking to Caleb. He knows what you're planning." My stomach dropped. How had he found out? "Tom, what are you saying?" I whispered, panic rising. "Be careful, Holly. This isn't what you think. Caleb might have known all along." I stared at the phone, frozen in fear. Caleb had known. The trap I had set was about to collapse, and Mia's life was hanging by a thread. The warehouse was darker than I remembered, the walls closing in with the weight of everything I was about to face. The air smelled of damp concrete, and the distant hum of traffic barely reached my ears. I took a deep breath, the calm before the storm. The plan had been set, the pieces in place, and all I had to do now was wait. The phone rang, breaking my thoughts, and my heart skipped a beat when I saw it was Tom, the last person I wanted to hear from right now. But I couldn't ignore him, not with everything hanging in the balance. "Holly." Tom's voice came through the line, shaky and urgent. "I've uncovered something. Caleb's men are getting ready to move. They know what you're planning." I stood frozen for a moment, the cold sweat gathering on my palms. "What do you mean?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "They're coming for you, coming to silence you before you can make your move." A wave of panic surged through me, but I pushed it down quickly. This was it. No turning back now. Caleb's men were closing in, and my window of opportunity was rapidly closing. "Tell me where they are," I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind in my chest. "I don't know. But he's not going to let you win, Holly. Be careful, Tom warned. The phone clicked, and I was left standing in the silence of the warehouse, the weight of his words hanging over me like a heavy fog. I couldn't waste any more time. I had to act. I turned to face the people I had brought with me, the small group of trusted allies who had agreed to help. They were nervous but determined. They had no idea what they were up against. Caleb's reach was far wider than any of us could have anticipated. I gathered them around. "We have to move now," I said, my voice cutting through the tension in the air. "I know where he's going to be. We set the trap, we draw him in, and we take him down." As the team took their positions, I couldn't help but think of how far I'd come. From the moment I first heard those whispered rumors about Mia to this very moment, every step had led me here. But now, with Caleb closing in, I was more determined than ever. Then came the unexpected. The tip-off. A voice from within Caleb's circle had reached me, slipping me a vital piece of information. Caleb was overconfident. He thought he had us, thought he was untouchable. And I was going to use that to my advantage. I felt a rush of power. I wasn't just following his moves anymore. I was making the moves. It was time to flip the script. As I set the final pieces of the plan in motion, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. "The trap is already set. You're being watched." My stomach lurched as I read the message. I didn't have time to dwell on it. I had to focus. I had to be smart. Every move had to be precise. But the worst was yet to come. Just as I thought everything was falling into place, the betrayal hit. One of my allies, someone I had trusted, had sold me out. The plan was compromised. My heart sank as I realized what had happened. I tried to breathe, to calm myself, but the betrayal stung like 1,000 needles. It was Tom. Tom had been manipulated, unknowingly playing right into Caleb's hands. The man who was supposed to be by my side was now part of the problem. I felt the bitterness rise in my throat. I was alone again, but I couldn't let this derail me. I had to keep moving forward, no matter the cost. I couldn't stop. Not now. I quickly recalculated. There was no time for weakness. I was going to have to confront Caleb on my own. The trap might be ruined, but I still had one last move. I arrived at the warehouse. Dark, foreboding, the place where it was all going to go down. My heart pounded in my chest as I stepped inside. Each echo of my footsteps amplified in the silence. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel Caleb's presence hanging over me. He was waiting. "You're late," his voice echoed through the room, cold and taunting. "I'm here," I said, my voice tight with anger. "And you're going to pay for everything." The conversation that followed was a blur of threats and revelations. Caleb didn't try to deny anything. He admitted it all. The manipulation, the years of planning, the control he had over Mia and me. But what hit hardest was when he revealed that this was all part of a bigger game, one I wasn't even aware of. "You think you can stop me?" Caleb sneered. "I've been controlling everything, Holly. Your family, your friends, they were all just pawns." The world spun for a moment, the weight of his words crashing down on me. This wasn't just about Mia anymore. This was bigger. This was a battle for survival, and the stakes were higher than I could have ever imagined. But there was no backing down now. I wasn't just going to let him walk away. He had taken everything from me. Now, I was going to take it all back. With a steady breath, I made my choice. "I'm done playing your game," I said, my voice steady and unwavering. "This ends now." And just as I was about to make my move, a voice from the shadows called out, a figure stepping into the light. A hidden ally, someone I hadn't expected, had been watching my back all along. "You're not alone, Holly," they said. The unexpected help gave me the strength I needed to move forward, but before I could act, the final twist came. Caleb's men arrived. The game had changed, and we were now playing for the highest stakes. Everything was about to explode, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. But one thing was certain. I wasn't going down without a fight. The mansion loomed ahead, its grand yet desolate presence casting a shadow over the approaching dusk. The long driveway stretched out before me, leading to the place where everything would either fall apart or be put back together. My heart raced, not with excitement, but with the heavy weight of everything that was about to unfold. I could feel the pressure mounting, the culmination of weeks of tension and uncertainty. I had always been a woman of action, but this was different. This was a choice that could destroy everything or set me free. The final confrontation was upon me, and the only thing that was certain was that nothing would ever be the same. Just as I approached the door, my phone rang. I froze for a moment, seeing Tom's name flash on the screen. I had been avoiding him, not ready to face what his betrayal might mean. But now, it seemed like I had no choice. I answered the call, trying to steady my breath. "What is it?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. "Holly, I've found something." Tom's voice was urgent, as if he couldn't shake the gravity of his words. "Caleb, he's been hiding something from you, something about your family, your past." I felt a chill creep over me. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. "I don't know the details, but he's been manipulating everything. Your family, Holly. This goes deeper than you think. Everything you've known about your family, about your life, it's all been controlled, orchestrated by him." The ground beneath me seemed to tilt. My heart sank as his words hit me like a blow to the chest. This wasn't just about Mia anymore. Caleb hadn't just been playing with us, he had been playing with me, my entire life. I had been living a lie. Emotions surged through me. Shock, disbelief, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. How could I have been so blind? The life I thought I knew, the relationships I thought were real, they were all built on a foundation of lies. I took a shaky breath, holding onto the phone with a white-knuckled grip. "What else? What do I need to know?" Tom hesitated before speaking again, his voice almost a whisper. "I don't know the full truth yet, but Caleb has ties to some dark parts of your past. The family you thought you knew, it's not what you think. I think this goes all the way back to when you were young. You need to be ready for whatever comes next." The words rang in my ears, a blur of confusion and disbelief. I had always thought I knew my own family, but now? Everything was shattered. Caleb's manipulation didn't just affect me. It had affected everyone around me, everyone I had trusted. But there was no time to dwell on it. I had to face Caleb. As I stood in front of the mansion, my mind raced. What was I supposed to do now? The weight of it all was almost too much to bear. Betrayal. Deceit. My own family tied up in a web of lies. But there was no time for tears, no time for second-guessing. I had come this far, and I couldn't stop now. I stepped inside the mansion, the grand halls stretching before me like a maze of memories I had never known. Everything felt different now. Every piece of furniture, every picture on the wall, felt like a lie I had been living with. And then, in the stillness of the house, the truth started to settle in. Caleb had played the long game. He had manipulated me, my family, and everyone I cared about, and now I had a choice to make. Do I destroy him, or do I somehow save the people he has ruined? The decision weighed on me heavily. For the first time, I wasn't sure of the right path. I had always thought I knew how to fight, how to win. But this was different. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for Mia, for the truth, and for everything that had been taken from me. I gathered my thoughts. I had to think clearly. The stakes were higher than ever. Caleb was a dangerous man, and I knew I had to outsmart him. The hours leading up to this moment were full of lies and deceit. But now, I was taking control. I wasn't going to let him win. Not again. I made my move, setting my plan in motion. I knew Caleb wouldn't expect this. He had underestimated me at every turn. Now, it was my time. I had one card left to play, the final card that would bring him down. But just as I thought I had everything under control, the unexpected happened. The last betrayal I never saw coming. Caleb had one last trick up his sleeve. He had been hiding a truth far deeper than I could have imagined, and now it was time for the final confrontation. He stood there in front of me, his dark eyes meeting mine with a chilling calmness. "You think you can stop me, Holly? I've been playing this game for years." "You never stood a chance." I clenched my fists, my pulse racing. "This ends now," I said, my voice hard with resolve. "You've taken enough. I won't let you destroy everything." Caleb's lips curled into a smile. "Oh, but you've already lost, Holly. Everything you've worked for. It's already mine." The weight of his words crashed down on me, but I didn't flinch. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about saving what was left, about protecting Mia and reclaiming the life Caleb had stolen from me. He continued, his voice a low murmur. "I've always admired you, Holly. Your strength, your determination. But you were never going to win. Not in my world." His words struck something deep inside me. A twisted sense of sympathy stirred within me for him, but there was no room for pity. Not anymore. With a final, sharp breath, I made the choice that would either destroy me or set me free. I took a step forward. "You'll have to face your own demons, Caleb. But I'll never forgive you for what you've done." The moment felt like it stretched on forever, but I knew it had to end. Caleb was no longer in control. I was. And just as I prepared to walk away, something caught my eye. An unexpected figure. An ally I hadn't seen coming. Someone who had been watching my back all along. Before I could process the shock, Caleb's final backup arrived. Everything I had planned, everything I had worked for, was teetering on the edge. The final showdown had just begun, and I wasn't sure what would happen next. But one thing was clear. I was going to finish this.